Michael Sliwinski, CEO and founder of Noseby.com. You're back for the second year in a row, which is, I know, probably the highlight of your professional life. But we're
Exactly.
so grateful that you could come back year two of the Productivity Summit. So welcome back.
Thanks, Mike, for having me. Always pleasure to be talking to you.
So you were one of the most popular guests last year, and I wanted to build on some of the things that we talked about from the 21 Summit. But also the world has changed so much. And I'm grateful for that, because at least here in the States, you're in Spain, I'm here in the States, it's been a hard couple of years. And this whole movement back to work, back to the office. And, I know one of your mantras with Noseby is work's not a place you go, it's a thing you do. And maybe we could start there. Why did you come up with that concept, and how is it kind of deeply baked into your team of, I don't know, 25 or 30 people you have all over the world working for Noseby?
Yeah. So as we have seen in the pandemic, not only people were forced to work from home, like from one day to another, without any preparation, anything. But then later, once they figured it out, they actually thrived. They actually made it happen. They were actually commanded for it. Great. And I remember when I was talking to some fellow entrepreneurs, I was asking them for what was their main kind of surprise when all this happened. Was I was surprised people were actually working. I thought at home, nobody would work. And of course, in the pandemic, it was even worse, because first, they were not prepared. Second, they had very often kids at home because schools were closed. So completely not ideal situation to actually, get stuff done. And in my team, we've been working remotely because I always believed in finding the best people. Doesn't mean they have to be around, around me. And also because I felt like I preferred to work from home. I just didn't want to go, be forced to go to the office. So I didn't do any of that. So when you think about that, before the pandemic, people would look at me and were like, maybe it works for you, maybe it works for your company. But now after the pandemic, now we know it works for most of the companies. And I think what people, that's why I hear from people, that's what they really like is this, flexibility, that they can now choose, that the office, I'm always saying this concept of no office, but by no office, what I mean is that office is just a tool. It's not something, it's not something that you choose, that you have to go to. It's, a tool that you might use. You might want to use the office to meet with people, to have a conference room session, brainstorming, whatever you want. It's a tool, but it's not like the Mecca, the place where you have to go every day. And that's the main idea. And I think, and one of the concepts that were grew from that when I was talking to people is I could see in the big companies, in the big, even, kind of hardcore organizations that were really old organizations, even they were cracks there. So I work remotely 100%. So this is my context, but my wife doesn't. She works for a big organization. And I know many people who do that, work for organizations, corporations, and whatever. And what they are saying is that they've been given this flexibility now, that they can choose when they go to the office. And this is why, for example, I was criticizing Apple recently, because Apple was saying, now back to our beautiful, office. And I wasn't they are from California. So in California, to see their office, it looks gorgeous. And I saw the footage, when they are doing all these Apple events, fantastic. But again, if you're forcing people to go at certain times to the office, you're doing it wrong. Because what people like is not only having the office if they want to, but also having the flexibility to choose when they go to the office. And for example, my wife, she's quick. Before the pandemic, she could work maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks from home. Now she works 2 days from home at least. And then the rest of the days she goes to the office or not, depending on the. I mean, for example, this week she was 3 times in the office because she needed that. But like last week she was twice. So it all depends. But I think, I mean, I'm from what I hear from her, from other people, is that they love the agency, the flexibility and the agency of being able to choose. Yeah, I'm going to dress up and go today, and now I'm going to stay at home. So it's and she loves it, and and she was kind of a critic before, a little bit, to me, like saying, Michael, I don't know how you do it every day, from home. I wouldn't be able to do that. I just like going to the office. And now after the pandemic, she's like, yeah, I really like working from home, and I like having the option to go to the office, but I don't want to exercise this option too often. So that's what I was saying. And I think this agency is what, for example, companies like Apple don't understand, that this is what people need, that people have to be able to choose. So I wrote this post the other day that it would be nice if adults hiring other adults would treat them as adults. So that's what I think is the change after the pandemic. And I think all these companies who want to just go back on that, let's go back to the office, will eventually lose, because the good people, the people who are great workers, will just say, nope, there are other companies out there who give me the flexibility. I'm going to go there.
And I think that applies to nonprofits too. If you've gotten used to working partly from home or totally from home, and you're thinking, where am I going to be working in 5 years? What other nonprofit out there is going to be able to give me that flexibility? So would you say that agency and flexibility is something that you think nonprofits can really take post-pandemic with them?
I think so, because, when you work for a nonprofit, it's a knowledge work. Like you work with your brains. So really, and for these short moments when you have to gather together to, I don't know, prepare some things, prepare some shipments, or prepare some other things. Okay, you have to go there. Great. But for the most part, you do, the outreach, all that stuff, like you do everything with your brain, with your keyboard, with your internet. So you don't need to be in the office. You can be, and we'll talk about, how many meetings you should have later in this conversation. But the thing is that you should be able to choose, and especially for nonprofits. Again, and for every kind of company, you want to have the best, and I think, and I see that the best people will exercise this option. They will tell you, I'm the best, I know my value, and I will not be forced or coerced to be going to the office unless I really want to.
I met with recently a nonprofit leader who's the communications director for a major California organization, and she lives on the East Coast. And so she's, she goes to California every other week, for a few days, and she's able to get all of the rest of her work done remotely. And what's really amazing is, I would imagine quite a few people in that California organization don't even know that she lives on the East Coast, because like you're saying, she gets her work done, and she has an internet connection, and she's professional, and she knows how to do it. Okay, so let's maybe put some context on this remote work things. I think we're making a good case for remote work. There's the agency, there's the flexibility, there's one doesn't have to move if they like their town or their city, et cetera.
Yeah.
But there's also kind of some ground rules of communication, right? In terms of what to expect. Should I text you? Should we have a Zoom meeting? Can we put just notes in some kind of a project management tool? I had a call yesterday with one of my team members, and she said, can I brief you on X, Y, or Z? And I said, why don't you start it async and type up some notes, and then I'll respond. And then if we need to have a meeting, we can, but I'm not sure we need to go there kind of immediately. So talk us through how your company uses this pyramid of communication, and what does that mean? What are the components of this pyramid of communication?
So just, pyramid of communication is a concept we developed in our company, and it's not a Ponzi scheme. So just don't worry about that. It's just some ground rules, as you said, for communication. And we have identified these, five things. 5 ways people communicate at work. So first, communicate and then just do work. So first is the work, the deep work, the thing you were hired to do. This is, the first thing. And you do this, like you were hired to do this. You were hired, to record the interviews, or you were hired to write the blog posts or write the, essays, whatever. Like this is the deep work. And then the second part is feedback. And especially this kind of asynchronous feedback, as you mentioned. So the feedback where you show your work to somebody else and they, add comments to it, or amend the work with their input and all that stuff. So this is the second part, the feedback part, written feedback. And then third is like this, back and forth, this chatting, again, written. This is the kind of third level. You chat and you iron out the details, maybe in the comments, maybe in the chat room. And then only is the fourth level, which is like one-on-one. Like, for example, you want to iron out the details, as you mentioned, with somebody because you're not sure about something, you're about some nuance or whatever. And then the fifth level are the meetings where more people meet to do stuff together. And ideally, in this pyramid, the meetings should be on top, but not because they're most important. There should be the few, the least of them. That's why they should be on top of the pyramid, because the base of the pyramid is the deep work. Because you should spend most of your working hours in the deep work, then a little bit less in the feedback, because your feedback is also part of your work. Your asynchronous feedback, giving feedback to a document, giving feedback to a proposal are also very important. And then the back and forth and one-on-one and the meetings, this is how it should go. And this is why we call it the pyramid of communication, because explicitly we want to show meetings are at the top, but they are the least. And then deep work is the most, because it's the basis of the pyramid, is the basis of what you're here for. It's why you hired those people. Very often, like, I get this question because, we are a software company, we're on Nozbe, and I have developers, I have programmers. And very often I get this question, how do you motivate your programmers? And I say, cancel all their meetings. This is how you motivate them. That's it. Like, this is, if you want to just do one thing, cancel all their meetings. If they have any meetings scheduled, cancel them all right now. Because the programmers, they want to program. They want to write code. Like in our recent quarterly, interviews with our programmers, my CTO said the best feedback he got was like, everybody in Nozbe leaves me alone. That's my favorite part of working for Nozbe, because we use, Nozbe, the project management application. We use tasks, we use comments there. So we communicate with the programmers there in comments, and they do it very fast, very eloquently, very well. So asynchronously, as you mentioned, they rewrite a comment, they write back and all that stuff. But this way they can plan their work. They can plan, long stretches of time when they work on code. And once they, finish a part of code, they go back and check, comments and check tasks, add additional comments and tasks. So, but they choose when this happens. They are not being forced to do so many meetings. And very often in many software houses, still, many developers are being forced to go to these meetings. And they are annoyed and they're not motivated because they were hired to write code. And this is the same, kind of, thinking should apply to anyone. Why do you force people on all these meetings? And we'll talk about that they should be prepared, these meetings. So, and why do you force so many meetings unprepared, that people just waste their time? And they are smart people, so they know they're wasting their time. They know that they shouldn't be there, but they are, because the boss said that they should be, and then it's a nice thing to be on the meeting and whatever. And this actually, and coming back to the hybrid work, when there is no office and all that stuff, one thing that people also told me is that they can be more decisive about which meetings they take part in, because the meetings are now mostly like kind of, Microsoft Teams or Zoom calls. So they can see, this meeting is not really interesting to me. So I'm going to just write to the meeting organizer, I'm going to not be on this meeting. I've given my notes here, and then I'm going to check the results of the meeting. So people, again, got this agency to decide, because, they don't have to confront them, face to face, because they're not in the office, but they can just write, a note, a nice note, and they can get out of the meeting. which is again great, because finally they have again more agency over their time. And that's why in our pyramid of communication, again, the deep work is the most important thing. Everything else, the feedback and everything else goes until the meetings, and the meetings should amount to the least amount of time that people spend working.
So help us break this paradigm that we see a lot in the nonprofit space, which is basically, look, we have a decision to make. Let's call a bunch of people into a room for a meeting and just hope that magically something great happens and the decision is made. So imagine you step into that organization and that's part of their culture. Let's just call a meeting, let's hope I don't know, the muse strikes and magic happens, right? So how do you train that team? I mean that respectfully. How do you train that team or coach that team into like using the pyramid of communication?
Yeah. So we have this kind of rule for our meetings, that meetings should be regular, well prepared, and optional. So these are 3 rules of our meetings. And by regular, I mean it's the best way if you can plan the meetings ahead, or make them even regular every week at the same time, in the same Zoom room or Teams link or whatever. But to lower the barrier of entry, and also again to give people agency that they can plan their day, because they know that the meeting happens at that time, and nobody just out of the blue just goes to their calendar and just slaps meeting all over the place, right? So that's why regular is so important. And then well prepared. What you just said, you said that first, give me a note, give me a proposal, give me something to read before we meet. Because the meeting, I mean, our experience, and I've been running NOSB for 15 years. So you can't tell me that I haven't been running a company for a while now. So my experience over, hundreds or thousands of meetings that we had during that time is that the meeting is about the nuance. It's about the, you give me a proposal, I give you some comments, you give me some comments back, but there are just a few things we are not sure about. Like maybe I'm not sure about some motivation for you. Why do you insist on this? Or why, or you don't understand why I insist on something else. So this is what the meeting is for. So the meeting is not for you to right now spend an hour explaining to me the thing, and then I will give you feedback quickly because I'm brilliant, because I'm not. But the meeting is about the fact that we have already kind of asynchronously, as you call it very nicely, had that meeting before in the comments and in the in the feedback loop, and in the proposal that you prepared, that you worked on. So we know what the meeting is about. And we know that we are just lacking this nuance, and we want to talk about that, and we want to just figure out that. And this is what we do during the meeting. And that's why very often our meetings, for example, we have this design meeting. We call it design fight, because we are supposed to fight there. We are supposed to really, have constructive disagreements, because we all care about NOSB, about how NOSB should work, but there are many ways to get there. So, and then on this meeting, we usually spend like an hour and a half, 6 people. And we, in this span of time, we discussed like 6 or 7 or 8 features, because they were all prepared. We all read it before, so we know exactly what we're talking about. It was a funny thing that we asked somebody from support staff who normally doesn't go to this meeting to also have a proposal for a feature, and they did it. And when they showed up to the meeting, they started explaining us the feature, and we're like, no, don't tell us. We've read it. We know what the feature is about. We have questions. so it's like this is a completely different dynamic. They're not going to present this because they thought they were supposed to show up and present it. And no, they've already presented it. We want to get the nuance. That's why when you look at the meeting as a nuance seeking thing, then you need to have it prepared. And then you don't need so many of these meetings, because very often in many cases, the nuance is not there. Like there is a proposal. I say, Mike, let's go, thumbs up, or Mike, thumbs up. but I would change that and that. And you're like, great. And that's it. Like, there is no
Mhm.
meeting needed. Like,
Mhm.
we are in agreement, in alignment. It's fine. So that's why very often these meetings are completely unnecessary. And that's why, for example, our design meeting used to be every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Again, regular, optional, and optional. Sometimes we would cancel it because there would be no agenda, nothing to talk about. Like in the agenda points, everything was clear in the comments. There was no nuance, so we would cancel the meeting. That's the optional part. So we would say, today at 2 p.m. there is no meeting because like there is no need for it. So because of that, we had that like for several weeks at a time. Right now, we scheduled the design fight meeting once a month. And we do it once a month, actually, because we also want this group to be together. And because we don't have an office, it's also nice to just hang around and hang out together. So even if we don't have much nuance to discuss, we meet for like half an hour just to, listen to each other, talk about our lives a little bit, like just to hang. But then once we're done and once we've talked over the nuance, we just stop the meeting and that's it. So even though we booked a 2-hour time slot, usually is then the meeting is like 40 minutes or 30 minutes or something. So again, we do it also for some personal human reasons, and this is also these kind of meetings are also okay. So but if they're not prepared, don't call a meeting. If and as again what you said, flip the switch. First, write to me, ask me for written feedback, and then we'll talk or not.
I asked Jason Fried this question about his team at Basecamp, whether asynchronous communication favors introverts or extroverts. And it was really interesting. He said they probably have more introverts than extroverts at Basecamp or 37 Signals. How about at Noseby? Does this mode of communication tend to attract slightly more introverts, or are you more balanced as a staff?
Yeah, so I think Jason is brilliant, and I've learned many things from him. So I would like to say hi to Jason. We met once in Chicago. Anyway, Jason is great, and he's right. The more introverts prefer that way. That's kind of true. Like we had this, so we had this thing. We had this situation. So as I mentioned, we are a fully remote company. So to be able to kind of glue the team, twice a year we go on a Nosby reunion. We go for a week to a hotel, to a city we have never been to. We have a conference room, and we have activities, and we do stuff together. We hang out. We go to restaurants, like the whole thing, and it's fantastic. And it's every half a year. And on the last reunion, we had that, and we actually had more activities than any kind of working together sessions. So we had really lots of cool activities. We were running around town, going to places and all that stuff, and it was great. Like people loved it. On Thursday evening, just so night before the departure, we leave on Friday morning after breakfast. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's already Thursday! Come on!" Time flew so fast. So on Thursday evening, we had our last session where we are kind of summing up the reunion and asking for feedback. How it was, what was the good, the bad, and what needs to be improved for the next reunion. And Magda, my assistant, who's an extrovert, who and she was contacting you also for the summit and everything. So Magda is an extrovert, and she was like, we didn't get any work done together. And she was kind of sad and stuff. And then one of the developers said, "Hey, wait up, Magda. What you're saying is that you need a brainstorming session or something, right?" And she was like, "Yeah, exactly. We had no brainstorming session, nothing like that, and we are all together here from the whole company. We could have had a brainstorming session and stuff." And he was like, "Yeah, we still have an hour until dinner. Let's do a brainstorming session now. We'll indulge you."
I mean, it is, people have different perspectives on work, and extroverts need that verbal working it out in front of others time, and then developers need time to just get out of the way and just let them do their thing. And then there's people who are in between,
Yeah.
and it's okay to acknowledge that. I want to shift gears and talk about Noseby, which is an absolutely amazing, trustworthy project management tool. Highly recommend it to anybody at this year's summit, as I did to those at last year's summit. It's a great resource. It's simple enough and yet very, very, very powerful underneath the hood. And I use it. And so I'm not just saying that, it's a really, really great option for nonprofits. And I know that, Michael, one thing you talk about a lot is that your project management tool, whether it's Noseby or something else, it should be kind of like your one source of truth, the one place you can really count on and rely on that communication happens and tasks get accomplished and assigned to people and stuff like that. So can you just elaborate on this idea of a nonprofit using a project management tool like Noseby and seeing it as their one source of truth? Like, what does that mean to somebody who maybe is hearing that phrase for the first time?
So again, going back to the beginning of our conversation, talking about hybrid and not everything happening in the office, and now increasingly so, you cannot rely on things being written in the office on a whiteboard, because you can't, or some documents being in the office. So if they are only in the office, there's nobody who's outside of the office that can, check these documents and check the documentation or, notes and stuff. So we know it has to be digital, but it's it's best when it's in a structured way. So either, use Jason Fried's Basecamp or our Noseby. These tools are similar but different. So it's I always say that it's a question of personal preference. You should check out which one you roll with. Of course, I prefer mine. That's why I built it. Otherwise, I would have been using Basecamp, and that's it. So so that's why we built Noseby. And to give you an example, in Noseby, when you set up an account for a nonprofit, for a company, then by default, when you create a project, the project is transparent, so it's visible to everyone on the team. Of course, you can have some projects that are just not for everyone, like maybe some finance things or some, I don't know, something that not everyone should know yet. But usually, most of the time, it's not necessary. Most of the time, you should default to transparency, and this is what I recommend. Just create project, everybody can access it, but not everyone has to follow the project. Not everyone has to just be looking at that project. And but this way, you create a place that if someone is asking you, hey, Mike, how is this thing going? Well, I can check right now. This is the project. I can see the the information and the status and all that stuff. And you just have access to it instantly. So you don't have to ask, nobody has to ask you or the project leader, how is this thing going? And this is like my favorite thing as the boss. I always feel as the CEO of the company, if I'm asking somebody how is something going, it means I'm ignorant. I'm admitting that I'm ignorant, and I feel embarrassed. So instead of that, I prefer to just go to this project and just check out how it's going. This way I know, and this way I can also give feedback. So to give you an example, in Noseby is a software product. We build features. Right now we are working on this cool revolutionary feature, as you know, that you will be able to actually assign a task to anyone in the world, even if they don't have Noseby account. So this is fantastic. So for example, this feature is a project in Noseby, and there is a developer, a programmer, who is the leader of this feature, and he just manages it and everything. And I am not following this project, even though this is my pet feature. I'm not following this project. I get updates in a task from this developer. How are things going? But if I want to dig deeper, I can anytime go to this project, open it. I can see all the tasks. I can see the design decisions. I can see the bugs. I can see some suggestions. I can see everything there. And I can also, comment on this, comment on that, give my feedback and everything. And this way, first off, everything is structured. Everybody knows where everything is. And everybody, again, gets this agency that they can just comment on anything if they want to. If somebody feels like, I'm going to just, give feedback on this because I feel strongly about something here. We are doing I don't know, a nonprofit. We're doing a fundraiser, right? And I have some cool ideas for this fundraiser. So I'm going to just add them to this fundraiser project as tasks, and ask for feedback to the fundraiser leader, and then they would tell me. So this way, you don't send emails, you don't send, unstructured information. Everything is in the project, in the comments. And the best part, of course, is that you can access this from anywhere in the world. You can access it from your office and your office computer, but you can also access it from your home office computer or from your iPhone or iPad. So this way, the information is there. Everybody has access to it. Everybody is empowered to give feedback or to add their 2 cents if they feel like it. And then on the other hand, there is no need to, again, call a meeting to ask for status updates. There is no need to find out when Mike is at work to ask him about it, because you can just check this out. And then as the boss, you don't have to ask people questions. You can just go through activity, go through the information, and you know what's going on. This summer, when I was on summer vacation, and I was not working for 2 weeks, and I came back for one week to work, and then I was again for 2 weeks off. I had this kind of structured, vacation, a little bit, long and crazy. But when I came after 2 weeks, I didn't have to, have a special status update meeting, tell me what's going on in the company. I went through the tasks, through the projects, and through activity, and I was like, okay, I know what's up. And that's it. That's the single source of truth. That's so that's why it's important that people actually create these projects, that we as organization establish when we create the projects, who is creating them, and then people are empowered to create tasks and add comments. And this way, people and then add documents to these comments, add attachments and all that stuff. So this way, even if you have your proposal in a Word document in a Dropbox, you can still attach it to the task, and then everybody can access it and can download it and can work on it. So this is what I feel like efficient, productive work in a team. And especially for a nonprofit, that you very often have to just act very quickly and know what's going on. This is the way.
It's fun too. It's a fun tool, Noseby is, and I think that's important for nonprofits. That we used a fundraising database for years, and it was just dreadful. It was like, it was really bad, and it was powerful. It could do almost anything, but it wasn't enjoyable to use. And, David Sparks, who's on this year's summit, he talks about the power of delight, when it comes to an app, and whether it's a little animation, or it's the use of colors, or it's, big clickable buttons or whatever. I mean, those things make a difference. And for those who are attending this year's summit, it's not a bad idea to take a little inventory of the software that you're using. And if you hear your team kind of grumbling about whatever application it is, there are alternatives out there, and some of them are really fun. And I think Noseby is one of those, that it's a very satisfying app, and it's fun. It's fun to use. And so I appreciate that, that idea of one source of truth. And one thing we find with our team is we have to kind of remind our team that they do need to set aside probably only 10 or 15 minutes a day to check what's incoming, check what's been assigned to them. That is just like we would check email every day. You also need to kind of create a ritual of checking your project management every day, because if we're all going to trust it as that one source of truth, we've all got to be using it daily. Hopefully not Saturdays or Sundays, but during the week, it's got to be ritualized. So anyways, well, Michael Sliwinski, founder and CEO of Noseby, thank you so much for being again with us in this year's summit. And how can folks find out more about Noseby or about you online?
So just to finish what you said, I'm wearing this shirt where this girl is asking, what if we stopped using email inside the team and started using Noseby instead? So listen to the lady here. So I think she's right. She's onto something. You can find out more about me and about Noseby on noseby.com. That's where you can get the software. And also michael.team is my personal blog. And from there also you can get to Noseby, because I link to Noseby, of course. So and I blog basically daily right now. I like blogging from my personal blog, and I blog every now and then also for Noseby. And then, over there, you've got, on our blog, the Nosby blog and my blog, you have like so much information about what we do and what we stand for. Check out the way we do meetings, the way we do Fridays, and these kind of things, because we stand for them, and we think that we all have the agency to change the way we work and to change, for the better, to just work better, more efficiently, and to find, and this, to be working on this balancing act between, between work and life, even and especially that we can choose, which tools we use, and Office is one of these tools, and Nosby is one of these tools. So, choose your tools wisely and enjoy your work. And as you said, Mike, this is brilliant. That joy is important. So just have fun.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.